black Americans have been the only real diehard Americans here, because we're the only ones who carried the process through the process. That everyone else has to sort of like skip stages. We're the ones who marched, we're the ones who carried the Bible, we're the ones who carried the flag, we're the ones who tried to go through the courts. And being born American didn't seem to matter. Because we were born Americans, but we still had to fight for what we were looking for. And we still had to go through those channels and those processes.
I don't really care what you have to say. Facts over fiction is the motto replay. Muhammad Ali came up from the clay. Grassroots built up this USA. Now knowing your history, you'll get played. Equip yourself, cause we came to slay any opponent that's up in our way. Look at Malcolm X and his delivery.
All right, family. Test 1, 2, test 2. All right. All right. Just want to make sure the audio is working. Test 1, 2, test 2. All right. Audio is working. We are good. All right. Hope everyone is doing TGIF for everybody. Thank God it's Friday. Shout out to our good sister, Friday Jones. Hope she is doing well. I always like to tease her and say TGIF. So Friday, if you are listening to this on the replay or on the live stream, much love to you, sis. We are so proud of you for doing what you do. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to do some quick housekeeping as usual, and then we are going to go into the read again. All right. Let's see here. Actually, let's put on some music. I usually put on some music, but it's Friday and it's one of them days, family. All right, so let's get the music. Make sure the music is working. I'm gonna test out my audio again. Oh, okay. Let's do this. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Okay, let's do this. Test 1, 2. All right, yes, audio is gravy. All right, thanks everyone for joining. Let's do this. Oh, Oil and Blood, The Color of Wealth in Tulsa, Oklahoma report, read series and review. All righty, so as I said before, a little quick housekeeping here. ETMMediaGroupStore.com, ETMMediaGroupStore.com. Get your latest merch. Reparations Now. Check it out on Tubi. The first one. We are working on the second one as well. Where is that slide? All right. Reparations Now. The documentary. Part 2. The Betrayal. The CLBC. California legislative black. And I was going to say something different. I'll be nice. Caucus. Some people call them carcass, but I won't be mean. California Legislative Black Caucus. Yeah. All right. MrUncomfortable.com. Yes. Putting out my first book. If you have a chance, check it out. You can get the Kindle pre-order right now. Click on that QR code or just go on to Amazon. Might even have it down in the link. Check that out. Greatly appreciate that support there too. And we're going to be rolling out, if you haven't seen already, Allensworth with his descendant, Allensworth descendant, Charles Allensworth. So shout out to Kim and Darlene as well as Dr. Ashley Adams and Ife for inviting us on the trip. All right, family. So let's get into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let me see. Boom. All right, let's see here. Make sure that's nice and legible. Everybody can see it. What's up, LA? Thanks for joining. Hello to you too. And TGIF, happy Friday. Let's go. All right, last time I'm just gonna read into where we left off last time because I think this is actually, these two paragraphs are actually quite important, and then we'll go on to the next page. The above analysis shows that one important and common characteristic of the racial ethnic groups for which we found statistically significant wealth and income gaps, such as African Americans, Hispanics, and Muskogees, is the low rate of entrepreneurship compared to white households. An interesting question to explore is how different are families with entrepreneurs compared to those without any entrepreneurs. We find very compelling results that entrepreneurs in the long run tend to generate relatively more wealth, household income, and earnings compared to households without entrepreneurs. The relative gaps are 611,454, 54,271, and 24,171 respectively. Not surprisingly, we find that entrepreneur families have high ownership rates, 91% versus 67%, are more educated, 52 versus 20%, hold a BA degree or higher, are more likely to be married, and are US born. These results highlight that creating the right set of incentives for asset building through entrepreneurship can help in decreasing the wealth and income inequality in Tulsa. Table 5, summary stats, employees versus entrepreneurs. All right, just need to check my audio real quick, make sure I'm good. Table 5, summary stats. We're good. All right, wealth, no entrepreneur, entrepreneur, and difference. All right, so we have this here. I'm not going to go into these numbers here, but when you have a chance, you do see them on the screen here. All right. 5.2, comparison to other NASCC cities. All right. One important question is whether the differential correlation that we see in Tulsa is unique to this particular city. It could be possible similar household behavior and magnitudes are found throughout the United States, and the wealth and income gaps are not necessarily unique to Tulsa. Very interesting. Let's see. To tackle this question, we compare the survey samples from the other NASCC cities conducted around the same time. This list of cities includes Boston, Miami, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. We purposely exclude Baltimore, given the analysis was conducted much later and under a slightly different methodology. The below comparison focuses on analyzing the means across each of the city samples. Given that the NASCC surveys were conducted at different times, the data on wealth, household income, and earnings are in 2012 dollars. For a more detailed analysis of the sample for each city, see the Color of Wealth reports for the corresponding cities. All right. Table 6, Part 1, across NASCC cities comparison. All right, we have city of Tulsa, Boston, and Washington, D.C. Let's see in this chart. Let's see what else they have. Okay, all right, let's go over actually this one. This is interesting. All right, so city of Tulsa, we're just going to go over the top 2, wealth and household income. All right, so white, black, and the difference. The wealth is 2013, 75.47, 19,481. The difference is 193,593. Household income, 57,276. Black, 30,385. The difference, 26,891. All right, I might be doing some, what is it called? Estimates here. So hear me say estimates. I'm not going to say the full number. So yeah, here we go. Boston, white at 262,643 for wealth. Black, 93,594, with a difference of 1,803,821. White, 770. No. Dang. 77,572. Black, 56,577. The difference of $20,000. Washington, D.C., wealth, $629,000. Black, a whopping $177,000. Difference, 452,510. Where my DC folk at, huh? Isn't the mayor in Maryland somewhere near DC trying to get some stuff popping? All right. Household income, $1,209,000, 436. To black, 98,828. Difference, 30,607. L.A., Los Angeles, California. Ooh, L.A., California. All right, here we go. White wealth is $847,376 compared to black at $291,012, with the difference of $556,363. That's what, a half a milli? Household income, white at $134,000, black at $48,000, and then we have, which is a difference of $86,710. And then we have Miami. We have the white at $372,000, black at $152,000, with the difference of $220,112. And then we have white at $97,756 for the household, and black for $62,955 for the household income, with the difference of $35,800. Where my Fort Lauderdale family at? My Fort Lauderdale, Miami, South Beach. What up, fam? All right, so let's continue. The 5-city comparison is reported in Table 6. Our findings show that the city of Tulsa has the largest wealth and income gaps of all the NASCC cities. For example, in terms of the percentage of black-white wealth gap, the size of the gap is 91% for Tulsa, while DC is 72%. For Los Angeles, it's 66%. For Boston, it's 64%. And for Miami, is 59%. In terms of the household income gap, only Los Angeles has a larger black-white income gap than Tulsa, 64% versus 47%. Similarly, for earnings, in which Los Angeles has the largest white-black earnings gap, 59%, followed by that of Tulsa, 54%. The findings for the wealth gap highlights that two of the major sources driving these differential effects are home ownership rates, 38% gap, and entrepreneurship, 12% gap. Compared to the other NASCC cities, Tulsa has the largest home ownership rate gap and the entrepreneurship rates of blacks and whites, and the other cities are generally similar for both groups, with a minor exception for Miami, for which we find some weak statistical significance. Research has shown that unmarried heads of households tend to have lower wealth levels. For example, using the U.S. National Longitudinal Survey of Youth, NLASY79, Zagorski 2005 finds married respondents experience per person net worth increases of 77% over single respondents. Shout out to all those married couples out there who have been married and who are divorced. Additionally, the author finds that divorce respondents experience a drop in their wealth. Hence, the fact that there is a 30% white-black marriage gap, driven partly by the high incarceration of blacks in Tulsa, could also contribute to the wealth gap in the city. We find similar results in the other cities, with the exception of Boston, for which we find no statistically significant difference in marriage rates between white and black households. Interesting. 5.3, wealth analysis, assets and liabilities. All right. Assets good, liabilities not so good. To understand what drives some of the wealth inequalities in Tulsa, we look at the composition of assets and liabilities at the household level across the different racial ethnic groups. Table 7 provides summary statistics for the total assets and liabilities by racial ethnic group. The list of assets includes home equity, other real estate, vehicle, business equity, total account balances for checking, savings, and money market accounts, total value for stocks, mutual funds, and investment trusts, retirement assets, and other assets for debt. The list includes credit cards, installment loans, student loans, medical, legal, friends, and family debts. Table 7. Assets and debts, white versus black, Hispanic, and Native American households. All right. All right, let's read this table here. I'm going to read maybe the top two, and then we'll go down to the liabilities table. All assets. The first chart is whites versus blacks. Home equity, $74,715. All. Whites, $105,944. Black, $39,933, with a difference of $66,000. That's home equity. Let's just stick with the home equity. Whites versus Hispanic, $58,978. The difference is $46,965. And then we have the Native American at $77,756, with the difference of $28,186. Let's see, debts. We have whites, or the overall at $2,761. Whites at $3,000. Oh, this is credit card debt. I'm just using that as an example. $3,605. Dang. Blacks have $6,686, with a difference of negative $3,080.98. So obviously, as we can see in this chart, and I'm sure they'll probably mention it, but if not, as you can see, blacks hold more liability and credit card debt than whites do. Hispanics at $1,533, with a difference of $2,072, and Native Americans at $1,322, with a difference of $2,283. There's an asterisk there. I don't know why, but maybe they will explain it somewhere. All right. A key takeaway from the results shown in Table 7 is that household wealth differentials across racial ethnic groups are mainly driven by asset building behavior and not by debt minimization. In other words, we find that in Tulsa, racial ethnic groups behave fairly similar when it comes to debt acquisition levels. This means that blacks in Tulsa, who on average have lower wealth levels, tend to have similar amounts of debts across all liability categories, which means black households are more likely to be in debt relative to white Tulsans. When it comes to assets, we observe statistically significant differences between black and white households. When it comes to home, vehicle, and business equity, balances in checking, savings, and money market accounts, and investments in stocks, mutual funds, and investment trusts, the largest gap is for home equity, showing a differential of $66,010, followed by balances in checking, savings, and money market accounts, $50,000. Estimate value of investment in stock, mutual funds, and investment trusts at $27,749, and business equity at $26,632. Although the two latter ones are just weakly significant at for the 90% confidence level, the fact that investment in stock markets comes in third is not surprising, since Tulsa is a blue collar city which aligns with investment habits of real estate and savings. Checking, savings, and money market accounts. In terms of Hispanics and Native American households, generally, we find statistically significant gaps for home equity, but not for any other type of asset or debt. With only one exception, credit card debt for Native Americans is lower than white households, but its effect is only weakly significant. Table 8, assets and debts, white versus Native American households by tribe. All right, so as you can see this chart up here. All right, we are going to keep it moving here. Table 8 provides a summary statistics for the total assets and liabilities divided by tribes. In terms of assets, we find only some significance, although weak, for the home equity when comparing whites to Cherokees, Muskogee, and mixed or native or no tribe Native Americans. The size of the home equity gaps are $31,333, $36.98, and $31,399 respectively. Generally speaking, we do not find evidence of differential gap with respect to whites or Cherokees, other tribes, or mixed or no tribe Native Americans in any other listed assets. When comparing whites and Muskogee, we find weak significance for business equities, stocks, mutual funds, and investment trusts and other assets, with whites showing higher amounts. In terms of debt or liabilities, we find that for the most part, the households from different Native American tribes behave similar to white households, with the only exception being credit card debt, in which whites have larger credit card debts than Native Americans from other tribes, or mixed or no tribes. Lastly, in Table 9, we compare the assets and liabilities between households with employees and those with at least one entrepreneur. We find that there exist huge gaps between entrepreneurs and employees across different types of assets, as expected. We find statistical significance for the gaps for home equity at $67,138, other real estate $100,528, and vehicle equity $8,780, business equity $210,000, and total balance of checking, saving, and money market accounts $81,138. In terms of liabilities, we find that employees tend to have, on average, larger installment loan debt gap of $781, and medical debt gap of $2,349. Assets and debts, employees versus entrepreneurs. All right, so here's this chart. We're going to keep it pushing. All right, decompensation analysis, wealth and income gaps. The above findings suggest that the wealth and income disparities that we see seem to be driven by differences in entrepreneurship and home ownership rates between whites and blacks. However, access to credit and other resources can significantly affect both the ability to start a business and to own a home. Therefore, in this section, we explore to what extent we can decompose the existence of inequalities into those that we can observe and those that we are not able to control, for such discrimination, racism, among others, and their amplification mechanisms through society. With that in mind, in this section, we estimate racial differences in wealth or net worth, household income, and head of household earnings using the Blinder Oaxaca decomposition to shed some light on these disparities. All right. Just making a note here. And then we will continue. All right, specifically, we use a twofold decomposition method with a pooled regression model. This method decomposes the gap in average outcomes, for example, wealth, household income, and head of household earnings, into one component that can be explained by observable differences in age, education levels, and gender, and other component that differences in these covariates cannot explain. The unexplained component can be attributed to unobservable characteristics across racial and ethnic groups, including exposure to discrimination or the effects of significant local shocks, such as the Tulsa massacre, have in various markets: labor, housing, financial education, healthcare, among others. Therefore, here we follow the literature and interpret the statistical significance of the unexplained component as evidence of discrimination. It is worth noting that in all of our decomposition results discussed below, we use survey weights based on family characteristics in the U.S. Census Bureau's ACS to generate results representative of specific ethnic group characteristics in Tulsa, MSA. Equity, business equity, money and checking, savings and money market accounts, government bonds, stocks, mutual funds, retirement assets, and other assets. Total debt includes debts from credit cards, installment loans, student loans, medical bills, legal bills, money owed, and friends and relatives and other debts. Our subsample is composed of 155 households, 89 whites and 66 blacks, of which we were able to obtain or calculate the net worth, household income, and earnings of 99, 130, and 65 households, respectively. We use these observations to perform our decompositions below. For each of our blinder Oaxaca decompositions discussed below, Group 1 denotes the comparison racial group, whites, and Group 2 represents the minority racial or ethnic group of interest. The rows titled Group 1 and Group 2 given the average outcome of each racial group, and the row titled Difference shows the difference in outcome between the two groups. Positive differences mean that the average outcome for whites was higher than that for the comparison racial ethnic group. The units for these estimates are in levels. Table 10 gives the results of the black-white decompositions of the wealth, household income, and earning gaps. We find substantial differences in the average wealth gap across black and white households in Tulsa. The gap between the average wealth of whites and that of blacks is $213,000, equivalent to 92%. In other words, the average black household wealth in Tulsa represents only 8%. Let me repeat that, a whopping 8% of the wealth owned by the average white household. Interestingly, the wealth gap is not explained by group differences in age, education, gender, and marital status. The findings show that 90% of the black-white wealth gap is unexplained, which the literature attribute to other unobserved sources, including historical and systemic discrimination. In terms of black-white household income gap, we find a gap of $30,967, of which 69% is unexplained, leaving only 31% to be explained by age, education, gender, and marital status. We also find that unexplained portion of the earning gap accounts for 93% of the earning gap of $15,795. All right, so let's see here. We got about a minute or two, so let's go through this this last page here, and then we will stop. Taking a deeper look into both the explained and unexplained components of the three decompositions, we find that only for the household income gap, the explained component is significant. This effect is driven by the contributions of the differences in marital status. There's also evidence of differing returns to marital status as shown by the significance of the predictor on the unexplained component for both wealth and household income, showing a narrowing of unexplained component of the wealth and household income gaps. These findings are important because they highlight the importance of marriage in building wealth. Research has shown that the white-black differential rate of incarceration has affected wealth accumulation, one of the channels through which is low marriage rates. Similarly, we find that education level has differential returns for black and white, as shown by the statistical significance of the unexplained component of the wealth gap. Table 10, whites versus blacks. Decomposition of the wealth, household earnings, and earnings gaps. All right, so as we can see in this table here, we have the wealth, the household income, and earnings. All right. We have group 1, group 2, the difference, explained, unexplained, age, BA degree or higher, female, married, and constant. All right, so there goes that table there. All right. So we'll leave off on robustness checks. That's robustness checks. That is 28 on this document here on screen here, but on my page it's 30, but on this page it is 28. So we will resume on 28 on Monday through Friday, right here on Even the Mass Media Group. That's 8 to 8:30. So I greatly appreciate everybody for coming through. What up, Mike? How you doing, brother? Salute. Hope everything is good for you out there. I believe you still out in Oklahoma. Shout out to LA Hopkins. Happy Friday to everybody. TGI to the F. All right, family, that's it. And I believe we have a playlist on our site as well. So if for some reason you miss any of these readings, you can go back on the playlist to check that out. This is part 5 of a, I don't know how long series this is going to be, but this is currently part 5. Yes, peace to you, family. Peace to you, brother. Hope all's well, man. All right, we are out. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourself. There's a lot going on, man, with Donald Trump and this whole birthright stuff. So I don't know. We'll see what the courts have to say. I know the Supreme Court is weighing in right now. And then your man's Donald Trump, he's over there trying to keep the peace in the Middle East, supposedly, and we know how that one goes. Usually they say they're going to have peace, and then all of a sudden, it's like back at it again. Who knows, right? Who knows? Appreciate you too, family. Appreciate you too. Who knows? But yeah, everybody have a wonderful, it's hot out here I keep saying have wonderful. It is hot up out here in California. I don't know if it's hot all across the United States right now. I mean, I guess we are kind of going to summer. I don't know. I'm assuming Oklahoma's probably smoking out there in Kansas. I don't know if it's the Dust Bowl out there or whatever, but I don't know. One day I got to get out there. I don't know about the summer. Well, I used to live out in Arizona, so I could probably stay in Oklahoma a little bit if you compare it to Arizona. Anyway, family, for real, we're going to be out. So, damn, really? Heat wave, 100s. Yep. Yeah, it's about that temperature out here in California as well. So, it looks like this is the heat waves all across the country here. So, stay hydrated, please. Stay as cool as you possibly can. And, take care of yourselves, you and your family, because life is short and we never know when our time is going to be called. So for the ones that are watching this now and then on the replay, we really appreciate you. and your support as always. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. There's a lot of stuff going on next week, some hearings and some more shenanigans that are going to be happening with the CLBC, but we'll make sure to report on that next week. Everybody take care of yourself, and we are out. Have a great weekend. Peace and reparations.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.